I'm here with Michelle Rempel, who is the MP for Calgary Centre North.
That's correct, yes.
Has been since 2011. So you follow politics probably most of your life, and you're kind of interested in this, and then you get elected, and you come here, and how much did it conform to what you had been brought to expect about this place?
You know, I think if you come into this job with any sort of preconceived notions, you're going to be proven wrong pretty quickly. I think what surprised me was the diversity of the scope of work. You get to touch so many different people and so many different subjects, and your day is so varied. You have, legislative components, you've got committee work, you've got your constituent, you've got the political side of things. It's constant, but it's certainly diverse.
How much of your time is devoted to sort of the high affairs of state and now your ministerial tasks? And how much is devoted to there's a fence back home that's leaning the wrong way that needs to be propped up or whatever? I don't know what it is,
It's interesting because I don't think that there's a set amount of time. There's certainly different circles of work. I have the ministerial responsibilities of the department, the day-to-day operations. There's the responsibilities of cabinet. As I said, the legislative responsibilities, so being a member and participating in debate, your constituency work, and your political work. And it's peaks and valleys in each different silo. And I think it's success in this job means keeping up your finger on the pulse of all those different areas while being grounded at home and keeping an eye on home base at all times, because that's why you're here. So it's an interesting mix of work, that's for sure.
How much is your public persona, statements, things like that, how much of that is controlled by people in the Prime Minister's office who may or may not wear short pants?
Well, first of all, I think short pants are fashionable, but hey. Look, when you come out here, you campaign on a platform and you campaign with a leader. So when you are campaigning on a party ticket, you are attaching yourself to that brand because it's what you're presenting to your electorate. So I think that there has to be a recognition of the larger policy box in which you play. That said, I think it's still up to you. It's up to each member of parliament to recognize what's happening in their community, your constituent groups, not just from your constituency, but the broader group of people that you represent, and ensuring that their viewpoints, which can be fluid, match with what you campaigned on. Do we need to change that? And that's really how political messaging comes to be. And I don't see it as something that's sinister. So from my perspective, I speak my mind very freely, sometimes a little bit too freely. But I always recognize too that I was elected on a platform and I was elected behind the leadership of Prime Minister Harper. So I'm proud to support that messaging.
These people in the other parties, New Democrats, Liberals, a couple blockists here and there, are they people that you can work with? Are they people who are inclined to work with the Conservative government or with members of the Conservative government on files? Or is it pretty much trench warfare?
I actually think that we can do something here that resembles work. Even though I might not agree with someone on their particular ideology, that doesn't mean that we can't sit down and talk about mutual interests or different viewpoints, because that's the policy process. I mean, if you remove that from the process, I really think you've missed the point here. And certainly there are members of other parties that I have a great working relationship with, but the key is that we're coming into that with mutual respect and with an understanding that we are coming with policy. And I think that's the core, is you have to be able to articulate a position and value each other's viewpoints in order to do that. You can do that with some people, you can do that, but you can't with others. And that's not just in politics, that's in life, that's in the private sector, that's in any organization. So if you approach this job with mutual respect and a desire to drive good policy out, I think this place can be a very honorable place to serve.
You got elected in 2011 as part of a majority Conservative government, the first majority government in 7 years in this Parliament. And a lot of the analysis afterwards said, well, things are going to calm down. A lot of the turmoil of the last several years is going away, and people are going to be able to focus on business over the long term. Mm-hmm. I get the impression that hasn't really worked out that way. That there's been as
How
much
so?
chaos. There's been as much chaos since then as there've been Senate scandals and nasty allegations, and a guy came in with a gun, and and international turmoil and stuff like that. And it has been as unpredictable a work environment as it ever had been. How do you view this majority mandate?
You know, if you were an economist looking at the ebb and flow of Canada's economy or the growth of our economy over time, and you're looking at it from a macroeconomic perspective, you wouldn't focus on the peaks and valleys of a quarter. You'd talk about the overall narrative. And so, you know, I disagree with your comment a little bit, because there is chaos in government at any point in time, under any political stripe. It's part of the nature of the beast. And I think success is looking at whether or not a party can achieve the vision that it put forward to the electorate, especially after achieving a majority mandate. And I think unreservedly, I would say the answer to that question in our case is yes. You know, we have succeeded in achieving our economic goals. We have achieved and checking off most of our platform. So, you know, I think the pitfall for any politician is to become mired in day-to-day bumps. You can't ignore them, because if they're changing your course, if they're changing the steering wheel, they're important. But you also have to look on the horizon, and I think that's what we've done as a government, and I've been proud to be part of that.
I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you, Michelle Rempel, for taking the time to talk to us.
Great.